Hey, what up, everybody? This is Stevie Breach coming to you. This is my response to Assault and Battery 777. My good buddy over there, Ravi, he just made a video on his thoughts on Brock versus John Cena. How this was not built up the right way. This shouldn't be an Extreme Rules pay-per-view. This should be a SummerSlam pay-per-view that it gets months and months of build up to be a marquee dream match that people have been wanting to see forever and ever and ever. Basically, my thoughts on Brock Lesnar is that yes, he signed a 1 year deal with a certain amount of dates for a certain amount of dollars, but Brock Lesnar, I don't really see working his way all the way through this contract. I think it would be a dream for him to get to WrestleMania, but he's given up on the WB before, and I think he's going to do it again. I think the one reason that he's back in the WB is money. And people are going to say, "Oh my gosh, this guy's a millionaire. He's made money from wrestling, from UFC. He doesn't need money." But his career plan, it isn't a career that is going to be producing money later on down the road. Once he's done with his wrestling deal, it's not like he's going to be able to go back to UFC and become an announcer or a trainer or anything like that. His career in mixed martial arts is pretty much done. I don't see him wrestling much longer unless he does these one and done sort of deals. He's not going to become any sort of wrestling, backstage announcer or producer or anything like that. So there's really nothing in wrestling for him to fall back on, unless he goes back to his collegiate days and he goes and becomes some sort of amateur wrestling coach or something like that. But I don't really see that coming anyway. So you need to make as much money to get yourself well off for the rest of your life, because unless you want to be doing autograph signings at county state fairs and stuff like that for pennies on the dollar, like you see the '80s guys doing, because they didn't make the money and save the money that they should have. He needs to make that money right now. I think that once he finds out on this, this, I guess you can say, contract that he's on, that it's not really worth what he's doing, I think he will pack his bags and go home. I wish it was a dream that he would face Rock at WrestleMania, but I'm one of those guys betting that I don't think he's going to make it all the way through. Um, so I think that you need to build off what WrestleMania was. WrestleMania was that you took a Rock, a former wrestler, and you knew all the wrestling people that were going to buy it. Year after year, they get a certain amount of buys. Those are the people that always buy WrestleMania. They wanted more. They wanted to make as much money as they could, so they took a guy out of the movies. They wanted the guy from the Game Plan, the guy from Fast Five, the guy from whatever the hell else he was in, and they took him out of there. So people that would watch those movies and think The Rock is a huge movie star, they wanted to see what he was doing in the ring and if he could do it again. And that's what they did. They produced 1.3 million buys, which is the biggest, producing pay-per-view of all time. Anytime the WWE goes from getting that many buys to a regular pay-per-view, like Extreme Rules or Over the Limit or anything, it always looks like a fail. Everybody says every year that they fall off. Like, oh, WWE's in the slump again. They don't care. It's only from Royal Rumble to WrestleMania that they care, and the other, 6, 7 months of the year they just, don't give a shit. Every once in a while they put out a good pay-per-view like Money in the Bank or SummerSlam like that. I think by bringing Brock Lesnar in, that is a way of building off of what they did with The Rock. They built bring a guy back to wrestling that was in UFC. A lot of people that were wrestling fans in the cool days of the late '90s left to go to UFC because it's real. One of those guys comes out and says one of those those fights are fixed, it's going to come crashing down. I truly believe that more UFC fixed than people think they are. There's got to be some money passed around, and some guys got to be taking a dive here and there to produce stars. It's just the way I think it is. I know in wrestling, every match is predetermined, but every once in a while, a UFC match has to be predetermined. Every once in a while, you see that one fight that the decision goes one way instead of going the other way, and everybody sort of nods their head. But someday, somebody's going to come out and say something was fixed. I honestly truly believe that. But that's a side story to this. But by bringing Brock Lesnar back, I'm sure a few people that are used to watching these UFC fights with Brock is going to come over to see what he can do when he comes back over to the fake world of professional wrestling, because they want to see if he's going to fail or if he's going to succeed. I'm one of the people that is embracing Brock Lesnar coming back because I want wrestling to be cool again. Is what CM Punk has talked about for ever. Him and John Cena and the Miz and all these people are trying to do everything they can do to get into the mainstream again. So that way, more people that come watch this with us, the more fun it's going to be, and the more money they're going to make. And the harder we're going to have to work to get tickets and all this stuff. But yes, Brock Lesnar is going to come in and kick the shit out of John Cena. It's the only thing that they can do. If they come in and they bury this guy and have Cena beat him by making him tap out of the middle of the ring, they're pretty much throwing Vince's $5 million in the in the toilet and flushing it down, because who's gonna want to see him do anything after that? Brock Lesnar has to come in. He has to be a monster. He has to destroy people, week after week or pay per view after pay per view. However you're gonna do it. If I was gonna do some sort of dream match to make this go down, what I would do is make this first Extreme Rules fight, make it some sort of no contest or no finish. By it being an Extreme Rules match with no rules and no disqualifications or anything like that, it's pretty hard to have a double finish somehow. But WWE will find some way to make this you know, happen. What I think is going to happen is basically Brock Lesnar's going to destroy John Cena and leave him laying in the middle of the ring, and then we're going to have to pick John Cena up, put him on Monday Night Raw the next week, and see where he's going to go from there. If he goes into a sort of feud with Lord Tensai after this, I think that's going to be a fail. You have to find some way to build it on. I think you could produce this into a couple months of Cena versus Lesnar, Cena versus Lesnar. Like I said, I don't want Lesnar to lose, so I don't know how they'll be able to pull this off, but I don't know. Keep Tensai away from Cena. I think that you put Tensai over on Raw to help boost your house show sales, because I think that, since Lester's not doing him, you have to have Cena fight somebody, and if you have Cena going out there and fighting Heath Slater week after week, it's not going to make much sense. But so now you have, Cena versus Tensai, and you can have him go out there and get his revenge for this one Monday Night Raw loss, which, a couple weeks down the road, or maybe a month, maybe a year, no one's gonna really remember anyways. So I don't think it really does that much to hurt John Cena. It helps him in the long run, because when people go to these house shows, they have a reason to go and see John Cena beat somebody up.